It's time to play the Dynasty market and buy low on these players in Dynasty Fantasy Football. These are trade suggestions that we're giving a ton of teams on Blueprints right now that we might give you on your team as well. These are good for almost any type of team, and we'll start with Cam Skattebooboo. You'll remember, back in the offseason, we were harping on Cam Skattebooboo being a good value in rookie drafts. Some we were taking in the second round pretty consistently, because when you're looking at his Bakery score, 4th round drafted running backs here in the history of the Bakeries. That's since 2015. Skattebooboo was the second highest ever rated 4th round running back. And so Tootin was up there as well. Bucky Irving is in that tier. We talked about these guys very highly. And with Skattebooboo, it was always interesting because he was, he was a senior, and, he played on Arizona State team that was, kind of came out of nowhere and went to the playoff. But realistically, he looked like one of the best players in college football. And I think occasionally in Dynasty Fantasy Football, something we think too much about, and honestly something I think the NFL thinks too much about, is like, oh, how is that going to translate to the NFL? And they go, we're going to take Ashton Genty, and we're going to draft Ashton Genty in the top 10, but we're going to draft Cam Skattebooboo in the 4th. Right now, the dichotomy of Ashton Genty and where he went and Cam Skattebooboo and where he went, it just has kind of blown my mind. And it's not because Genty's not good. Genty's great. He's going to be fine. He's a premier Dynasty asset. Not overreacting or panicking on him at all. But more so the way that Cam Skattebooboo looks. Cam Skattebooboo in college looked like a guy who could dominate in the receiving game, who could dominate in the rushing game. He was a bowling ball. He was gonna run past you. He was gonna be efficient. He was gonna be a playmaker. And you know what he looks like in the NFL? Literally the exact same thing. He looks like he did in college. I mean, we've only seen 2 games where he's had respectable snaps here because he did have that hamstring injury that kind of hindered him in the first week. But since that, I mean, he's had like 50 and 59% snaps and had 14 and 24 points in those games. I mean, it's just also so evident when you're watching the New York Giants. The dude, from a talent standpoint, from a playmaking standpoint, pops off the screen. And so I think the main concern you'd have with Cam Skattebooboo, I think the only concern you can say you have with Cam Skattebooboo is that he, plays a little bit recklessly, and he's kind of a psycho, and maybe he's going to get himself hurt a little bit. He's 23 and a half years old, and when you're looking at where he's valued in Dynasty Fantasy Football right now, he's like listed as like the 90th overall ranked player. Like, you can trade Travis Etienne for Cam Skattebooboo. As much as I love Etienne this season, Skattebooboo rest of the season could be just as, if not more productive than Etienne and have a better 3-year outlook in Dynasty, okay? You're looking at RJ Harvey versus Cam Skattebooboo. At this point, I view those guys pretty equivalently. I really do. You can trade Trevor Lawrence for Cam Skattebooboo. If you're looking to upgrade from QB to another position there, Skattebooboo's great. He's in the value range of guys like Keon Coleman, Jordan Mason, who's going to be a great rental for the rest of this year, whereas Skattebooboo could look good beyond this. And so, I mean, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt right by Cam Skattebooboo. I'd prefer Cam Skattebooboo all day. Fact of the matter is, in Dynasty, this guy has a solid 3-year outlook. As long as he stays healthy, he is going to be the starting running back there. We held this opinion pretty much the whole offseason until the very, very end when we wavered a little bit. And we said, it looks like Tyrone Tracy's going to be the back, so it's got to be kind of stock up for him. But then, I mean, as soon as Cam Skattebooboo was healthy, even when Tyrone Tracy was healthy, Cam Skattebooboo started to take that role from him in week 2. And then Tracy got hurt, and now he has it for the next couple of weeks, and he's not giving it back. He's not giving it back. He's a better back than Tracy. I mean, everybody raved about Tracy last year. I'm not worried about Tracy impacting Skattebooboo here. He's a rookie. And again, he looks like he did in college. He looks like a dynamic playmaker in that offense. In an offense that's not very good, and he can still score 25 points in his second game ever, above 50% snap share. I'm saying buy in Dynasty for Cam Skattebooboo. I think he's the real deal. I think he's going to be somebody that you can start consistently over the next 3 years. And also, I think it's in terms of the risk of here, I mean, the only thing you're really risking is injury. I'm not in the business of predicting injury, so I'm going to buy Cam Skattebooboo in my Dynasty leagues.
For the 3rd year in a row, Garrett Wilson is QB proof. It doesn't matter if Justin Fields, Tyrod Taylor, Aaron Rodgers at 45 years old, or Mike White, or whoever is throwing him the ball, he's going to produce regardless. And this is one where, again, we were expecting his target volume to kind of remain the same. And it has 9, 8, and 13 targets through the first 3 weeks of the season. He's wide receiver 7 right now. He's got a couple of touchdowns as well. And obviously big news heading into the year, he got that big extension, which just insulates his value quite a bit. And the reason that we have him as a buy right now is because despite all of this, he has actually, since the extension, lost some value despite producing, despite doing exactly what he's been doing for the last few seasons, and despite a ton of guys around him kind of fluctuating, moving up, moving down. Look at the guys that are value equivalent to Garrett Wilson right now. Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey is not producing right now. He's been as inconsistent as he was last season, and now Quentin Johnson actually looks like he can play football. Get ready for our conversation about QJ in this video as well. AJ Brown right there by Garrett Wilson as well. Garrett Wilson is 25 years old. AJ Brown is 28. While in a perfect world, we would like there to be no difference when you're talking about the age perception of both of these guys and how it's not that big of a deal that AJ Brown is 28 years old. Naturally, in the dynasty community and the market, AJ Brown can only really lose value from here on out where he's currently being priced, whereas Garrett Wilson is where AJ Brown was a couple of years ago, where he can just maintain for a 3-year outlook's worth of productive years. So with Garrett Wilson right now, I mean, those are just 2 wide receivers right there that I mentioned. There are some other guys here that are falling also. I mean, really, BCJ continues to fall. I think he'll probably move back up at some point. But I mean, talk about someone who's inconsistent compared to someone who's so consistent with his target volume and has proven that over the course of an entire year. If you want to down tier from Nico to Garrett Wilson, I would highly recommend that. That's another guy that has been fluctuating and been moving down boards a little bit with how poor Houston has looked to start the year. This is a market play, and if you want to insulate your value and have the same amount of production upside on a weekly basis, Garrett Wilson's your guy in this value range. Garrett Wilson is absolutely 100% your guy. With the uncertainty of Ladd, AJ Brown, Marvin Harrison, Nico, BTJ, who have all been wildly inconsistent. Yes, some of them have higher value upside than Garrett Wilson does, but no one can deny the safety that Garrett Wilson has at this point in his career as a 25-year-old wide receiver who's just going to continue to be a low-end wide receiver one.
This has been my dynasty calling card for a couple of weeks now. I've been screaming at the top of my lungs, and this is the last time I'm going to do it. And I know that I've said this so much, so loudly, that most people in dynasty circles are not even selling Rashee Rice at this point. And I know that you've probably already tried to buy him, or you've already bought him at this point. This
is your version of Quinn Sean.
It is, and I will die on this hill. Yeah. He's going to come back. He's going to have 20 points in his first week back, because he's going to have 12 or 15 targets, and then he's going to be a very productive the rest of the season. And by the end of the season, he'll be the dynasty wide receiver 10 again. Look, some people are asking, are you worried about the limited sample size we've seen with Rashee Rice? No, because I saw the training camp reps as well. I saw in training camp, they literally,
we also saw the usage climb his rookie year.
Yeah, and so this is not, no, I'm not worried that was fluky or anything like that. Rashee Rice is going to come back, he's going to kill, and he's going to end up going up in dynasty value. This is, in my opinion, a very easy dynasty fantasy football value win that you can take advantage of right now, where he's the wide receiver 17 right now on Keep Trade Cut. And the guys around, he's been climbing, by the way. He is continuing to climb, and I know that, I know that a decent reason that he's continuing to climb is because he's coming closer to being back on the field. But like A.J. Brown, Breece Hall, Kyron Williams, Marv even, Christian McCaffrey, Baker Mayfield, Bo Nix, Josh Jacobs, Zay Flowers, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Kyler Murray, C.J. Stroud, Derrick Henry, Ricky Pearsall.
How are he and Cam Ward even in the same conversation?
They're very close in overall rankings on Keep Trade Cut. And I would literally send any of those guys, because you know where he's going to be valued. Do you know where he's going to be valued here? In just a few weeks, he's going to be valued next to Jordan Love, James Cook, Amari Hampton, Caleb Williams, Ladd McConkey, Tyler Warren, Garrett Wilson. So you're talking about a significant value bump up there, and it's just easy. You get the value win, you get the production win, he helps you win a championship, and you get to add value to your dynasty team. I mean, to me, it's the most cut and dry dynasty buy that I've ever been a part of. I'll say that, and then it will be my famous last words. But with Rashee Rice, we've already seen what his dynasty value will do in the very, even if it is a limited, even if he comes out and only does 2 weeks worth of production there, we've already seen that after those 2 weeks, he was killing it. Last year, he had jumped way up. He jumped all the way up to as high as like wide receiver 8 last year. He's going to do it again. You've seen it in 3 games with Emeka Egbuka. This dynasty market is quick to elevate players on good offenses that they think are elite receivers, and Rashee Rice is going to be just that in a couple weeks. It's your last chance. I know I'm beating a dead horse, but buy Rashee Rice. Come on.
So there are times where some players will shoot up boards and be valued much higher than they were in previous weeks, and it still is worth investing in them because they have not reached their value ceiling. We do team blueprints all the time, and when you're talking about reloads and rebuilds specifically, I mean, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I tell these people who are looking to fold are target assets that have yet to reach their value ceiling. That doesn't mean target all assets that have fallen down boards. That means target assets that have not reached the max amount of value that they're capable of achieving. And it doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to achieve that, but it just means you know how high they could potentially get, and it's higher where they're currently being priced. Trey Benson is case in point here. Trey Benson right now is value equivalent to guys like Cam Skattebooboo, who we just mentioned, RJ Harvey, some of those guys who Cam Skattebooboo has moved up boards the last couple of weeks as well. But interestingly enough, with Trey Benson, while it took a injury, honestly, for Cam Skattebooboo to just pop off last week, Trey Benson has been scoring some points. And again, it hasn't been anything that's like super pretty, but he's been producing and he's been getting increased work even before the James Conner injury. 8 points in the first 3 weeks of the season against New Orleans, Carolina, and San Fran, and James Conner was playing in 2.5 of those games. So with Benson now and his current price, which I just mentioned around those other running backs, I want to talk about the guys that are ranked above him at the running back position, because when you're looking at this tier, this level of running backs, you've got what I like to call right now is the B tier running backs. You've got your elite level guys, you've got your A tier guys that have the upside currently to be in that S tier very soon. That's Genty and Hampton. Your B tier guys are a bunch of like unproven rookies that are like Henderson and Judkins. They're looking more proven. And then a bunch of like proven, highly productive, elite production upside veteran running backs. And then you have the next level below that. And that's kind of your inconsistent vets, your older guys, some guys who are honestly probably trending down, a couple of guys who have cap value ceilings. That's Chase Brown, that's Chuba Hubbard, that's Kenneth Walker, that's Derrick Henry right now at this point in his career, right? Because he's 31 years old. Trey Benson, when he has a 15 to 20 point game, will be ranked over every single one of those guys. No questions asked. It's not even a conversation. It's not even a discussion. This is a third round running back who, when you're talking about the analytical tier that he was in, was very, very solid. He was a good college prospect, came into a situation where he was going to be behind James Conner. This was his year, right? Where he was going to take over James Conner's role. James Conner gets the extension. So then he loses a ton of value. Then he goes back up because people are like, he's going to get an increased workload anyways. He does. Before the injury, James Conner goes down. Now you pounce. Now is when you pounce. Again, we're seeing the volatility of the running backs in this range. When the volatility of running backs was kind of in that B tier range previously, now that tier is expanded, they're a lot safer, a lot more insulated at this point in time in Dynasty Fantasy Football. And this lower tier of Walker, Chase Brown, Chuba specifically, those guys are just all over the place right now, up and down every single week. Chase Brown is trending down because Burrow is out. Everyone's realizing, maybe he doesn't have a very insulated outlook for the next 2 to 3 seasons. No way. No crap. Didn't know that. But with Trey Benson heading into his second year with, again, 2 more years after this season on a rookie contract in a situation where they like to lean on their running backs, and now it's running back singular. That's Trey Benson as the bell cow. There ain't no way I can all but guarantee you that he's gonna double in price within the next couple of weeks. So this is gonna be your last chance.
Did you just add him to the document while we're doing the video?
I did.
I was gonna say, I'm glad you agree with that, because I 100%. I think he's a huge buy in Dynasty, even though he's going up rankings. The problem with somebody like Trey Benson is it's probably gonna be hard to get. Most people who have Trey Benson are gonna hold Trey Benson.
Yeah, but
he is going to go. If anybody's willing to sell,
his value upside is
100%. He's going to go up.
Is the B tier running backs right now?
He's going to go up. It's just a matter of if the Trey Benson owner will sell, and it might be tough. We've been giving specific targets for rebuild, reload, and contend teams depending on what your 3-year outlook is on our team blueprints. You can get your 3-year outlook, what you should do this year, what moves you should make with your roster to either win your championship or go for next year or the year after that. We're doing all of these. Nathan and I do all of them personally. We can give you a second opinion, and you get one for free with the annual Mother Flocker tier with code DOMAIN. Basically, you come join the site, you get all the site tools, you get our Discord, you join our community. We do a free team blueprint for you, and you get infinite blueprint with that, which is a new blueprint every single week during the season, and then every month after that. It's the best team review product in Dynasty, and you're joining the best Dynasty community there is. And so, flockfantasy.com/domain. I've got the link pinned. Again, the annual Mother Flocker tier with code DOMAIN is going to get you that free blueprint. We can look at your team right now, tell you which moves that we think you should make for your Dynasty team. One move that I'm going to be making on my Dynasty teams, and a lot of people are going to say this is stupid, and I understand why people are going to say it's stupid, but I'm going to try to justify it. I am buying Quentin Johnston. And the reason that I am buying Quentin Johnston is because he was such a bust for 2 years. I think people are very, very gun-shy with him, even though we are seeing him play at an extremely high level right now. When I say extremely high level, I mean by QJ standards, because he was the wide receiver 79 in Dynasty Fantasy Football in September. And now, 22 days later, he's the wide receiver 33. So he's doubled in price. And I totally understand. Why would you buy a guy on the upswing after 3 weeks and you looks like you're buying him high? Because realistically, I think with QJ, this could be real. And the reason I think is real is not because any of my own analysis, although I'll give you my analysis. I've watched every snap of the Chargers this year because Omarion Hampton's my guy. I have him in the Flock League, and I own QJ in the Flock League.
This is at the expense of Lad, by the way.
I have watched every single snap of the Chargers. QJ looks good. QJ on field, the deployment is different, but he just looks like a good NFL wide receiver. He doesn't have the drops. He's not just being utilized as a guy who's big play down the field, might catch one, might drop one. No, he looks good, and he's a serious part of that offense. And an offense where one thing that we were totally wrong about, the last thing we expected to be wrong about was the fact that we did not think Justin Herbert was going to throw the ball a lot. And we did not think there was going to be another productive receiver outside of Ladd McConkey there. And lo and behold, Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnson have actually outproduced Ladd McConkey in the first 3 weeks of the season. Now, we have Ladd ranked higher than these guys, and that should tell you what we think of Ladd and who we think the number one wide receiver there is. But still, Greg Roman is no longer. It is now Reg Groman. That is who is calling. It is his alter ego. It's like on the Santa Claus when they make the clone of Tim Allen and he's like all super nice and happy and stuff like that. You remember that? They make the clone in this. You seen that movie? Good movie. That's what this is. That super nice Santa Claus guy, if we can have his picture up here, that is the new Greg Roman. And you're like, who the frick is this guy? He's passing the ball. Justin Herbert is first in the NFL in passing yards right now. And he's top 8 in attempts. Justin Herbert, the Chargers, Greg Roman offense. Like, what are we doing? And so we were, it was long story short, that was a Trey Harris take. And we were right about Trey Harris, but for the wrong reasons. We were wrong that there could not be another wide receiver that's productive there, when in fact, so far there have been 3. And with Quentin Johnson, I want to defer to Matt Harmon of Reception Perception. Obviously, we use this resource all the time. We love Matt Harmon's work. And honestly, I trust him because he gets into route winning, which is a very important statistic for wide receiver. First of all, he knows so far this year that they've used his alignment has been a little bit differently in terms of being on the line of scrimmage and off the line of scrimmage. It's consistently gone down where he's actually lining up off the line of scrimmage more, and this year even lower than it was last year. So the deployment in the lineup is a little bit different. The route sheet looks a little bit different. It says Johnson ran a 9 route on 27 and 25% of his charted routes in his first 2 seasons, 9 route on 9.3 of his routes this year. And so, and a curl on 7.4%. And so, they're not just using him for that anymore. They're starting to use him on slants and digs and posts. And, his success rate against every type of coverage so far, when he charted his first couple games, he's taken a big step up versus zone. He's up to 87.5% success rate versus zone, which is a big step forward. His man is still average at like 60%, but it's a step in the right direction after QJ had one of the worst reception perception profiles we ever saw after his rookie year. He got better in his sophomore year, and so far it looks like he took another decent step. And the thing with QJ is QJ from a dynasty perspective, remember, was a first-round dynasty rookie pick for a reason, because he was a first-round NFL draft pick with Zay Flowers, with Jackson Smith-Njigba, all those guys. And basically, he was always a raw and imperfect prospect. But now it looks like the prospect we thought he could be, the player we thought QJ could be, is coming out. And this is a risky buy. I will give you that. Buying a player after 3 weeks of production is risky. But ultimately, QJ is extremely young. He was extremely raw. He has the tools. He has the talent. Now he has the quarterback and the situation. I think he could be a reliable low-end wide receiver 2 for your dynasty team. And he's going at low-end wide receiver 3 prices. I'm going to take my shot here. I think QJ is somebody who might have, somewhat arrived. Do I think he's going to be an elite top 15 dynasty wide receiver? I don't at this point in his career, but I do think he's going to be somebody who you can flex on a week-to-week basis and feel good about it. And because he's still so young at the wide receiver position, I think he's going to have value insulation there as well. Long-term, he projects well there as well, tied to Justin Herbert there. And also Keenan Allen's not going to be there forever. Look, I think eventually it's going to flip and Ladd's going to be the most productive wide receiver in this room. But in terms of QJ, the proof is in the pudding in terms of his statistics that he has been better this year. My long-winded way of saying I am buying Quentin Johnson, whether you do or not, is completely up to you. But in my opinion, this is a player that has the talent to be a good dynasty asset in long term, and I'm going to take my shot on him and hope that he returns on value.
So through 28% of snaps in week 1, George Kittle had 12 points. He looked like the Kittle that we know very well and has that crazy production upside any given week and doesn't need a ridiculous amount of target volume any given week to be very productive because of his yak ability and big play ability. George Kittle at this point has fallen down quite a bit because he's missing a significant amount of time this year. He goes on IR. You see that value dip where he was rising right before the season started. People were like, oh, George Kittle exists. That's right. Maybe we should start moving him up. IR, right back down where he was previously. This is an easy, literally market play 101 with George Kittle. Whether you're a rebuild, a reload, or a contending team, you essentially just capitalize on the value in when he comes back healthy, and you know exactly what he's going to do. Generally, for a lot of guys who historically have hamstring injuries, we're like, okay, I'm really worried about this guy. I'm worried that he's not going to look the same when he comes back. George Kittle, we give a little bit of an exception to, because he's had these types of injuries pretty much his entire career, and he's so tough that he literally always fights through them. And as a 31-year-old tight end with the skill set that he has, I don't think it's going to hobble him too much. They put him on IR for a reason. They could have not. I don't think it was that severe to a point where they were like, oh, we're going to put you on IR and then you're going to miss more time after that potentially. I think they wanted to play it safe, and it's looking really smart at this point because they're 3-0. But once he gets back here, I mean, you're looking at that wide receiver room. It's in shambles right now. Juwan Jennings has been missing time. Brandon Ayuk, who knows what he's going to look like off the ACL. George Kittle is going to come back once Brock Purdy comes back healthy, and he's going to pick up right where he left off. Every single season, guys, since he came into the league, 14 games played in 2019, 8 games in 2020, 14 in 2021, 15, 16, 15, and he's going to miss probably 3 or 4 weeks this season. This is what happens with George Kittle. Nice to have a little serviceable, streamable tight end backup when you own him in Dynasty as a contending team. So again, this is just a classic market play with George Kittle. You know he'll gain value once he comes back and has another touchdown and is productive all over again. Small value wins. That's the name of the game.
Look, a quick one here because I think it's going to depend. James Cook, I think, could be a buy in Dynasty because when we've done some Dynasty startups recently, I've pretty much consistently seen him go at the end of the 4th round. Now, maybe this is the Dynasty market being slow to adapt to his value, as like on Keep Trade Cut, for example, he's actually listed at the end of the 3rd round, next to guys like Amari Hampton, next to guys like Devon Achane, Bucky Irving, and Brian Thomas, Ted McMillan. Like, that's where I think he should be going. But if you have a teammate that doesn't value James Cook that highly, I don't know at this point why we wouldn't, and so this is going to be a conditional buy. You know, go check out what the owner of James Cook in your league, how he values James Cook, and if it's, you know, like 4th, 5th round prices, I think he's a huge buy. I mean, it's a guy so far in the NFL season that has come out and not lost a step in terms of how many touchdowns he's scoring, and that's really where we thought the regression was going to happen. It's probably still will, but I don't want to get shot for saying that. But either way, I mean, he just signed a huge contract. He's on a great offense with a great quarterback on a great long-term situation, and he's scoring a ton of points. I mean, in my opinion, like, I think, you know, we look at James Cook and he's a less sexy option because of where he was drafted and because realistically, I mean, I'm just saying this and I know it's true. I just do because I know how people's minds operate. We talk about how TreVeyon Henderson has higher value upside than James Cook, and he does. If James Cook had been selected in the 2nd round where TreVeyon Henderson had, in my opinion, we would not be having that conversation. I don't think as Dynasty players we ever really let go where they were drafted, even though it literally is so freaking irrelevant. And James Cook is also 26 years old, and so that's really the thing to consider here. But again, like, he just signed his 2nd contract. It got 2 years at least locked in on that offense, and the situation is going to be good for at least 2 years. And
he's a very affordable, high production upside contending.
Look, if TreVeyon Henderson did in 2 years, in the next 2 years, what James Cook has done this year, I would be thrilled. And you can get that at a pretty cheap price at the moment relative to, again, some of the other guys going around him. And so it just depends, though. Like, if people are actually valuing James Cook correctly, which is like in the range I mentioned him, you're probably not buying James Cook. But he is somebody that is young on a good contract and also scoring a ton of points on a good offense. Like, if you can down tier to some of the guys that are hired to James Cook and get a significant amount on top, I'm absolutely doing that. Again, it's a conditional buy, but it's going to depend on what the James Cook owner in your league, how he holds James Cook in his opinion. So, again, these are buys for almost every type of Dynasty team. If you would like buys specific for your Dynasty team, we can give you those. We give you a full team review, comprehensive breakdown of your entire Dynasty team, your strengths, your weaknesses, your 3-year outlook, your team archetype, and then what specific moves you should make when we do team blueprints for you. Again, I got the link in the comments. Come join. You can either get an a la carte team blueprint. You don't have to join, but you do get the free one when you join. And trust me, when I say that when you join, you're going to get a lot of stuff when it comes to January, February, March, when it's Dynasty season, and especially around rookie draft season. This is the best place to be for Dynasty Fantasy Football. You can trust us on that. We literally devote our entire lives and beings into making sure you guys are taken care of for Dynasty. And so come join the community. We appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure you drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed if you play Dynasty as well. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you here soon.